We all have memories. A picture, a memento, a silly Polaroid. And these memories are dear to us because they bring us joy, pain, and all of the above. And sometimes these memories could be held in the form of art.
This one's my painting. I started it a while ago. It's got a leaf on it. And I never really finished it, but it's the combination of Monet's painting back there. He did a series with a woman like holding umbrellas, and I was like, what if they're gay and in love? So I did a painting of that. And then this one was I don't know, it was just at some random festival when I was at my grandparents' place in Florida, and it's reversible. But that's the one. It's just the sunset at sea. And my sister did that one. It's actually really good. I'm really proud of her for doing it.
But Grace Schumann has her art on her back. What can you tell me about your favorite patches?
Well, this one I got from my aunt just recently, and it was a pain to sew on because it was on a double pocket. But so she's on my dad's side, and on my dad's side, so when I came out, it was like a big thing. My mom was kind of okay with it. My dad was not. And so I left the house for 3 days. There's a whole big story about it. And essentially what happened was I came back. It was a week of no electronics for anyone, including my father and my mother. And it was just like a time of healing and like, hey, the reason we don't like you being gay is because of the AIDS crisis and Ronald Reagan and all that BS. I'm sorry, I almost cussed. And so I still never really, it's still kind of like a hard point in our family because, yeah, it's like there's always the fear in the back of your head, like, hey, my dad might not show up to my wedding if I marry a girl type thing, which is kind of a hard thing. So I always had a little doubt on that side of the family because they're a lot more conservative. They're all from like the South area, and this past, I want to say it was Christmas, my aunt actually, she got me a double pack of heart patches because I wear this thing everywhere, and she got me one with a rainbow on it, and she's like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that we all love and accept you. And that was like, I almost started crying, and I don't usually it meant a lot to me. Yeah. And then my next one back is, I gotta say, Mary Wander right here. Just move everything real quick. There's the Mary Wander patch right here, and that was my first house show I ever went to, like Brighton proper, went to a house show, and it was in, I want to say, the real west side of Chicago, and we went to this house show. We wandered around for a bit trying to figure out which house it was, because at first we thought it was an apartment building, and it was not there. It turned out in the backyard of it was crazy. I have amazing pictures. Anyways, it was just a bunch of people gathered together in this garage, and they were like handing out like Bud Lights and like bubbly water. They were like in that box, and there was like a little dinky sound system set up and a little card table in the back with all the merch on it, and it was a defining experience as a punk teen. But it was also like such an outpouring of love in such a small space. Like, a lot of the people there are former addicts, people who are going through remission and therapy, and other people who are having trouble with depression and anxiety, and it was them like just being so raw and honest and open, like 5 feet from you, and like telling you their life story through music, and that was just so amazing to me, and it was a really defining experience. And my third one, which one was it? Oh yeah, it was the okay, Junior Ranger from Yellowstone. So, and you can also check behind that, but that's from a podcast. So basically, I've always been a person who's been like, I need to have a future, like, I think I started looking for colleges in 7th grade. It was our study period, and the teacher was like pressuring us about college, you know how they do. And I'm like, I'm gonna start looking for colleges now. And I sent in an application to, I think it started with an E. It was some Christian college in southern Florida where my grandma lived at the time. And I sent in an application as a 7th grader. I mean, it was immediately turned down, obviously, but it was like, there's always been this huge pressure on me. And so I'm like struggling around. I'm like, maybe I'll be a video game designer. Maybe I'll be a film or maybe I'll be a photographer, and maybe I'll be a classic painter and starve to death in a sewer. Maybe I'll go to art school and figure out my life then. And throughout all of this, I was never really like connecting to myself. I was just connecting to my fleeting hyper-focuses at the time, which are like an ADHD thing. When you have ADHD, you like zoom in on one thing and you're like, holy shit, this is my life. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to bleep me. Holy shit, this is my life for the next like 3 months or sometimes 5 years. But I was never really connecting to an underlying theme throughout all of it. I mean, there was art throughout all of it, but I'd like to live a little longer than 25. And so I was just going through my stuff, and I'm like, what do I love? I love being outside. I love getting my hands in the dirt. I love getting dirty. I love humanity, and I love teaching, and I love people, and I love history, and I love fighting for people. My mom calls me the underdog. Gotta fight for the people who've been pushed down. So I figured the best way to do that would to be doing something in forestry. And then I found out what forestry actually is, and it's basically just glorified architects for outdoors. And I'm like, that's not what I want, because that involves math. So I looked into it. I spent like a week on the National Geographic photographer position, because I'm like, I could interview people there and I could like make stories from that. But then I was like, that's it's super hard to get into. That's like a 30-year wait time sometimes to get a job there. So I wasn't gonna go for that. And then it struck me like park ranger, and that was partially because of the podcast I'm listening to right now called The Adventure Zone, or they're on their second season called Amnesty, which is about a park ranger and cryptids. But essentially, it was kind of like the puzzle piece snapped in for me. It was like, wow, you can like be outside, teach people, and like still like bring up whose history, whose land we're on. Like you can still talk about that. It's like kind of like how Mr. C does it. Like you gotta mobilize within your community in the ways that you know how to do best. And I feel like if I was a political leader, I'd probably be dead by my controversial opinions. So there's that. And I've got a whole lot more. Every single one of these has got a story, but there's a lot. Yeah.